Welcome. I'm Dr. Berkson, and I'm excited to introduce my receptor detox. I'm in Austin, Texas. It's kind of cold, so I'm bundled up today. Let's get hormonally strong in 2025. Today's planet is ill. It's encompassed in so many pollutants, many of them which damage hormones. These pollutants aerosolize up into the atmosphere. They create mini whirlwinds that travel around the planet. We get everybody else's garbage, they get ours. And where does a lot of this garbage land? But where our receptors that take our hormonal messages are supposed to signal. This is making us as human beings ill. It's making us fat. It's making us have resistant fat. It's more difficult to lose weight in 2025 than it was in 1985, and this is a physiologic fact. It's making lower estrogen in younger women. Younger women are having bone loss, having shrinkage of the parts of the brain that have to do with verbality, are having more anxiety, sleep issues. They're having a lot of problems like usually women that lost a lot of their hormones in their 60s are having. It's making lower testosterone in males reported all around the world, making them more prone to anxiety, depression, not just less functional male genitalia. And of course, hormones rule our brain. My last book was called Sexy Brain because sex steroid hormones rule the brain. So as hormones decrease or become malfunctioning, then we have abnormal cognitive functioning or the potential for that. Nothing happens to everybody, but the more vulnerable we are, the more these problems show up. All these chemicals are contributing to more aggressive cancers in younger humans. Younger humans mean under the cohort or group of people with similar characteristics under the age of 50. We are seeing more cancers in younger people. We are certainly seeing infertility on the rise, not sperm on the rise. And we see this from Shanna Swan, who's still in her 90s going around the world lecturing. And I had the honor to work with her at Tulane when I was a distinguished hormone scholar. We're seeing an emergence of resistant diseases. Practitioners are saying patients are harder and harder to heal. Diseases like polycystic ovarian syndrome happening in 1 out of 10 women, and also POTS dysautonomia. Mayo Clinic says it's happening in 1 out of 100 people, but that's just who's diagnosed because it's a poorly diagnosed condition, and much more. Hormones rule the human show. This has not been appreciated. This is one of my missions in life. Hormone signals receptors and hormone signal membranes. There's two ways hormones signal. When they signal receptors, it's called genomic signaling. When they signal membranes, it's called non-genomic signaling. And we've got hormone receptors all throughout our body, and we've got cellular membranes on every single cell. So hormones deliver wherever there are receptors. Hormones deliver signals wherever there are membranes. That means that hormones deliver what we could call the emails that run the Wi-Fi of humanity. And you know how exasperating it is when you open up your computer and you try to work, but your Wi-Fi is frozen. Oh my God, it's like a catastrophic event. Well, if human Wi-Fi freezes, we potentially get ill with many of the issues that we don't know what to do about. So hormones are the most powerful signaling molecules inside the human body. And they've kind of like Rodney Dangerfield, not too many younger people know who he was. And he's a famous comedian who always said, I ain't get no respect. Hormones for so many years ain't got no respect. So you got to think of our body as its own planet, and hormones make the planet spin because it makes the Wi-Fi work. So download this, Vulcan Mind Meld, grok this. Hormones are not just about reproductive and sexy things, but hormones rule wherever there are receptors or membranes, which means they rule the brain, the eyes, the immune cells. We learned about this in COVID. They rule the gut, they rule the kidney, they rule our bones, they rule a lot of the show. So genomic signaling is when a hormone crosses a membrane. It's made somewhere distant in the body. It floats through the ocean of the body, which is the blood, and it seeks out a receptor, and it has to cross the membrane, find the receptor, go into a binding pocket that's evolutionarily conserved, because this is the way the messages of life, the Wi-Fi of life, make everything run. So a genomic hormone crosses the membrane, goes into the cell, settles on into the binding pocket if it's available, and delivers the signal that tells your cells what to do. And then we're learning about hormones that signal to all membranes. This is called rapid non-genomic signaling. Hormones can travel in any membrane. All our body is made up of cells that have membranes. And hormones will travel in and out, in and out, in and out 7 times. We have 7 chakras. 7 is a very holy number. So insulin, parathyroid hormone, many of our hormones, even estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, can also have this way where they signal in a just emergent way. We don't know much about this. We're learning about it. They go in and out, in and out, in and out of membranes, and they trigger the release of enzymes that tell your cells what to do or run the Wi-Fi of your system. So if you think of any tissue as having a lot of these receptors that are the binding pockets where hormones can signal, this is what it might look like. This could be your brain. This could be your vocal cords. This could be your kidney. These are a target tissue. So when estrogen is released from an ovary, it swims through the ocean of your blood and it's looking for target tissues with estrogen receptors. This might be your breast. It might be your uterus. It might be your ovaries. If we hone into this picture, we see that receptors are very, very malleable. They're wide open because these are the messages of life that drive the Wi-Fi of your life. Here's a 17 beta estradiol nestled on into an estrogen receptor, but the real deal is this receptor's got to be available. It's got to be wide open. We must be wide open to the emails, to the messages of life. But if these receptors are already chock full of heavy metals, mercury, phthalates, plastics, bisphenol A, volatile organic pollutants, then they're stuffed. It's like if you're on an airplane and you want to go to the bathroom and you got to go so bad and you go to the bathroom, but you look and it says occupied. If the receptor is occupied, then the hormone can't get in and your Wi-Fi can go quiet. And also if your cells become damaged with a poor ultra-processed diet, so your membranes of your cells get more rigid, then there can't be that easy flow 7 times of a hormone through the membrane. So there's so many ways in modern day life where hormone signals can get lost, futzed with, altered. I wrote a book on this called Hormone Deception. In fact, the last third of my book is all about how to decrease exposure, because the 2 ways to deal with all this are to decrease exposure to these pollutants and then also get these pollutants out of our body. So our ill planet is dumping endocrine disrupting compounds. That's the name for the hormones that assault chemicals that assault our hormones. Endocrine, our hormones, disrupting, they can damage them. Chemicals are surrounding our planet, rife in our planet, ubiquitous in our planet, can get into these binding pockets. So hormones can't get in because the binding pockets are already occupied, or they can damage the membranes of the cells so that the hormone can't travel in and out 7 times the way nature incredibly designed hormones to deliver their messages to tell your cells what to do. So today's hormones are under assault. Endocrine disrupting chemicals are ubiquitous, meaning they're all over the place and we get exposed 24/7 in our air, food, and water. I'm sitting here and there's sheetrock around my room. The sheetrock is outgassing endocrine disrupting compounds. If you didn't get a greenhouse built, if you have carpet on the floor, most carpet is mostly made of plastic. Plastics are endocrine disruptors. If you purchase personal care products that are not totally green, if you stand under a shower that doesn't have a water filter on it, so much of our contemporary water treatment plants today do not remove out all endocrine disrupting compounds. So just to name a few, are plastics, bisphenol A, phthalates, forever chemicals. Get rid of those stainless steel cookware, volatile organic pollutants, PCBs, polychlorinated bisphenols, heavy metals, and more. The bottom line is our planet is encased in chemicals. And now we are. The average American healthy woman has hundreds of endocrine disrupting chemicals in her amniotic fluid. The fetus is getting it. We now see that plastics are filled in egg and sperm in placenta and crossing the precious blood-brain barrier and in our brain. We know that we have all this stuff in us, just nobody knows what to do to get this stuff out of us. So what are the hormones that are affected? Are they just estrogen? Most people think of endocrine disrupting compounds as just estrogenic disrupting compounds. But every single hormone can be influenced because all hormones either deliver messages through the binding pocket domain or on the membrane. So we're talking about insulin, which gives the food for every cell. It allows sugar, glucose, to go to every single cell. Insulin is greatly potentially disrupted by endocrine disrupting compounds. Thyroid, we know by the incredible work by Barbara Demanu, who wrote Toxic Cocktail. I interviewed her on my podcast. The thyroid is one of the most vulnerable organs to endocrine disruptors, and that's why we see such a huge amount of thyroid dysfunction, especially if a functional doctor knows how to run a functional panel on thyroid healthcare. We also know that the pancreas, I didn't put this in here, but the pancreas is greatly salted by endocrine disrupting compounds and its pancreatic enzymes that allow digestion to take place and glucose maintenance to unfold in an optimal way is also greatly influenced. But estrogen, which rules life, of course, and the brain, estrogen can be affected adversely by endocrine disrupting compounds. So can testosterone, so can progesterone, and many more, adrenal hormones, vasopressin. The message is all hormones can be adversely affected by endocrine disrupting compounds. So it makes sense no matter whether you're fighting an illness or you're trying to prevent ever getting an illness to get this stuff out of us. But what is one of the very most vulnerable hormones of all? The hormone of humanity, oxytocin. Oxytocin is a hormone that rules birth. Oxytocin is a hormone that rules lovemaking to keep us connected. The more connected the parents are, the healthier the child and the next generation become. Oxytocin is the hormone of community, the hormone of empathy and connection. My new book is coming out soon called Oxytocin Medicine, but many don't realize that all hormones, including the hormone of humanity, oxytocin, can potentially be adversely affected by endocrine disrupting compounds. So to work optimally, we need optimal receptor functionality and healthy cell membranes. So to think, to have energy, to burn energy, to rule our kidneys, lungs, and even our womb, and especially to lose weight. Endocrine disrupting compounds make fat stem cells that birth new fat cells, birth nastier acting fat cells, so they're harder to get rid of in 2025 than they were in 1985. I wrote an article on this in the Townsend Letter for Doctors. The last paper issue they had was in January 2024. You can just put in Fat Cells Berkson Townsend Letter and read it for free online. But today we have nastier acting fat cells, and the mesenchymal cells that birth them also birth bone cells. So we have two epidemics coming up at the same time, all due to endocrine disruptors. We have an obesity epidemic, and we also have an osteoporosis or lack of bone integrity epidemic. Both of these epidemics are paralleling each other. It's not that the only causations are endocrine disruptors, but they're a major causation, and they can affect in the womb, and these effects can be passed on to the next several generations. This is called a transgenerational effect. So we don't want to keep these chemicals in us, and ideally we don't want them in us before we have a child, because we can pass on these endocrine disruptors and these dysfunctional receptors. We need to have functional receptors. So the point becomes, how do we clear these EDCs out of us on a regular basis? And then with special detoxes, how do we do it on somewhat of an intermittent basis? So I am proposing that detox must move mainstream because nobody knows exactly what to do. We're certainly not minimizing the chemicals. We're pumping out more, and you need regulatory action. You need remediation. You need money and regulatory action to allow remediation to occur. All of that takes time. So what can we do now? Because we want to get these chemicals out of us. Ideally, the time is before conception to protect your next generation, or ideally before pregnancy, ideally gently during pregnancy, but ideally 24/7. and with intermittent receptor detoxes. And so I'm introducing to you today Berkson's Receptor Detox for 2025. And this is how you do it. You purchase my Receptor Detox products by Biotics. Receptor Detox and Hormone Balance and Protect were based on myself working with Yanaki Gustafsson, who discovered the second receptor, and Elwood Jensen, who discovered the first receptor. And they would talk all the time at our Hormone conferences that hormone health comes down to receptor functionality. And receptor functionality comes down to two things. The receptor needs to be available, so you got to get the chemicals out that are occupying them in a bad way. And two, you have to have a lot of cofactors, nutrients that allow all the actions to take place for the hormone to deliver its healthy signals to tissues to keep them healthy. So Receptor Detox and Hormone Balance and Protect were designed to clear off your receptors on a 24/7 basis. They're both to be taken 2 twice a day on a regular basis. We usually start one Receptor Detox 2 twice a day on a full stomach, and then the next day you add in Hormone Balance and Protect. Why? You never add in 2 of any new things at one time, because if you have an adverse effect to one thing, you won't know what's what. So whenever you're taking any new hormone or nutrient regime or pharmaceutical regime, you only want to start one thing per day at a time. So on a regular basis, you want to start Receptor Detox or Hormone Balance and Protect. It doesn't really matter which one you take first. Take it 2 twice a day, then add the other one in 2 twice a day. So your dosage on a regular basis to detox on a 24 basis is 2 twice a day, but on a full stomach. There's quite a bit of full flush niacin in there because niacin helps break apart fat cells to release the chemicals inside. And niacin is also a critical cofactor to take cholesterol and pregnenolone to help it go downstream healthfully to all the other hormones. So niacin helps the Wi-Fi system of your hormones rule, but full flush niacin can give you a little bit of flushing, usually the first few days, not in everybody, but often if you do get a little flushing, which is pretty rare, it will go away as your body acclimates over a few days. So the basic doses of these products are Receptor Detox 2 twice a day, Hormone Balance and Protect 2 twice a day. But on the Receptor Detox weekend, we up that dosage. So you continue the normal dosage all month long, but on Saturday and Sunday, you take 4 Receptor Detox twice a day. That is the bomb. 4 Receptor Detox twice a day, and you can promote a little bit better cleansing if you try to eat only organically. And people that have been measured to have a lot of endocrine disrupting compounds in their bloodstream, when they go organic for a period of time, within 3 days, a lot of these chemicals just start to be cleaned out of their body. So within 2 days of taking 4 Receptor Detox twice a day with eating organically, you're getting a huge boost of cleaning this stuff, getting this stuff out of us. So Receptor Detox is on the weekends for 1 month. We're doing 4 Receptor Detox twice a day. We continue to do the 4 Hormone Balance and Protect along with that. That's really the Receptor Detox. It's pretty easy to do, and it's something that you should keep up once a month if you're healthy, to stay healthy. And if you're battling a disease, you might increase the Receptor Detox weekends depending on what's comfortable for you. You can also ask your family and friends how you look before and after. You can take a picture of your face under reproducible lighting before and after, so you can see if you see a difference in how you're feeling when you're getting this stuff out of you. Let's track the feeling and function of our precious hormones that rule our body. The real issue is in today's compartmentalized medicine. And medicine started out to try and help people. We developed standard of care to get protocols to try and reproducibly help people. But as big pharma has more and more entered into medicine being a handing out of meds, and as medicine has become an enlarging body that no one person can embrace it all, we have become very compartmentalized, and hormones got lost in that compartmentalization. Because of today's compartmentalized medicine, hormones got left out of heart medicine. Hormone receptors line the heart and all blood vessels. You have estrogen receptor, beta receptors on all blood vessels throughout your entire body. They get left out of gerontology, but hormone receptors line the hippocampus where memories live and sense of self lives, and they line the gut. but they get left out of gastroenterology. Gastroenterologists don't have anything to do with the gut, but the entire gut is lined with hormone receptors, thyroid receptors, estrogen receptors, progesterone receptors. Talk about leaky gut. Hormones help keep the gut from getting leaky by boosting adhesive proteins that help close the gut after a meal in an appropriate way. When you have less hormones, your gut can't close. It's supposed to open and close, open and close. Hormones help it open and close, but gastroenterologists don't look at hormones, and they'll say, you ought to go talk to endocrinologists or gynecologists or urologists. But OBGYNs and urologists and endocrinologists, who remain as those who are supposed to oversee hormones in today's compartmentalized medicine, are really not well educated in how hormones rule the whole show and the Wi-Fi of the human body. In fact, there was a 2023 survey of a representative sample of OBGYN docs, and it showed that only 31% had ever had only one course in evaluating hormones and then, after tracking them, learning how to properly give hormone replacement. So hormones rule the show, but they've been left out of educational processes, and our doctors, not being trained in this, don't appreciate this bigger picture. But that leaves you, the patient, potentially vulnerable because the planet is encased in endocrine disrupting compounds, filling up the human body, the brain, our tissues, even our amniotic fluid with all of these chemicals. So the bottom line is we got to get this stuff out of us. Hormones rule the show, but they're left out. They're under 24/7 assault. Let's get our hormonal Wi-Fi back on track at optimal speed. And I'm proposing to you we do this with Berkson's 2025, not 2024, 2025 Receptor Detox. You want to purchase Receptor Detox and Hormone Balance and Protect, you can go to my website and download in the menu bar the blue purchase bar of the Biotics products, Receptor Detox and Hormone Balance and Protect. And for 6 months, if you sign up now, you get 20% off on these products with the code Berkson20. And my staff and Biotics are kindly working on putting the entire Biotics catalog also in there for 6 months at 20% off. That's my New Year's gift to you. Please consider joining us in Berkson's Receptor Detox starting January 14th, going to February 14th. And then I'm going to have an amazing course for the public. But this is all about rebooting our hormonal Wi-Fi so you can be the best that you can be. And let's let 2025 be that year. Bye, everybody.